Hello folks, welcome to session number 2 of my Blender training. So I've copied over the file from session 1 and opening that now. Okay, so in this session we'll learn more about object properties and transformations on objects using hotkeys. Okay, but before that let's quickly render the scene. Okay, so in the image editor, to pan the image, so just middle click and move the mouse, and to zoom the image, just scroll the mouse wheel. Okay, you can also type the space key and choose different types of zooms. Okay, 8:1 or 1:8. Okay, by pressing the home key you can frame the image. Okay, so let's see it in 1:1 resolution. Okay, so this is where we left off, right? The last thing we did was splitting the view. Now let's see how to join these two views. Okay, I mean two editors. So I have the 3D editor on the left side and the image editor on the right side. To join them, okay, um, click on this arrow, hold, okay, left click, hold, and then move the mouse. Okay, so you'll notice that this arrow points to editor depending upon how you move the mouse. So if I want to collapse the right side editor, I click, there you go. Let's do it again. Let me split again. So left click and drag. Okay, change to image editor and left click and collapse. Right. Okay, so now let's learn more about object transformations and properties. Right, so right click on the cube to select the cube, and let's switch to the solid view. Okay, let me turn off the manipulators. Okay, the hotkey for turning on and turning off the manipulator is control space. Okay, so by pressing control space I can turn on, turn off. Alright, now let's talk about object properties. Okay, some of the object properties are accessible from the properties panel, right, under transform. We have used this in the last class. Okay, we can also change the name of the object from here. Okay, but there are more properties to an object, and those are available from the object context in the properties editor. Alright, so let's click on the object tab. So let's collapse all of these. Okay, so the name of the object, I'll say cube1. Okay, this is the object, and the object transformations, which is the same as this. Okay, so if I change a value here, it also updates over here. It's all dynamic. Okay, so let's initialize the x value. All right, and collapse this. So that's the transformation. And then there's delta transform. This is more for animation and rigging. Okay, I'll only be covering certain basic stuff for now. Okay, you can lock transformations. So say I don't want to move it in the x-axis, so you'll notice that this handle over here disappears and I click on X, and similarly Y and Z. Okay, to make the object okay, immovable, like in terms of translation, you can lock all of them. Similarly with rotation and scale. Okay, and relations. Okay, like I can have the plane, okay, the ground plane, to be the parent of the cube. Okay, so let's do that. Just left click and choose the ground object. Okay, you'll notice that the object has inherited the scale of the ground plane. Okay, so that's because the scale of the ground plane, right, is this value. Okay, 16, 16, 16. Okay, again, in the advanced classes we'll see how to uh, avoid this from happening. Okay, but that's a quick introduction to parenting. So let me just remove the parenting for now. Okay, now to frame the object, right, so I zoomed out and I want to frame the object. So let me show you how to frame the object. Okay, also remember in the last session I told you that in the information editor you'll see output from different operations. Okay, and I also mentioned that in Blender everything is an operator. Okay, everything you do in the user interface, like clicking a button, okay, it's calling certain operators. Okay, now let's see operators in action. Okay, so let me click I mean click the space key. Okay, type the space key and then you get this operator search menu. Okay, now I want to view the selected object, right, so let me type view selected. There you go. Most of the operators are named like logically, so you can just type that operation. Okay, and it should appear. So you see that a view selected operator is available. Click and there you go. Okay, similarly if I want to view the camera, right click and space bar, and the last operator that you call is still active, so click. Okay, and right click, space bar, view selected. Okay, this option can also be accessed from the 3D view header. So view and view selected. Okay, right click, view, view selected. Okay, all right. Now let's turn on the tool shelf. Okay, so for every operator there are certain properties. Okay, so those properties appear in the tool shelf. Okay, below the object tools menu. So let's move this object, okay, in the x-axis by a little amount. Okay, so once I let go of the translation handle, okay, you see that the operator properties for the translate operation are over here. Okay, so I moved the object in the x-axis by so and so amount. So as long as I do not do another operation, I can go and fix my previous operation. So maybe just adjust it a little, okay, and tweak it a little. Okay, so that's how we can use this. Okay, uh, since it's not moving in the x and z because I did not move it in the x and z axis in the last operation, so just the x. Okay, right, now if I move it in the y direction, okay, the operator changes and you'll see I moved the object by so much amount in the y-axis, so I can go and fix it again. Okay, all right, and if I select this lamp, okay, and let's rotate the lamp by a little. Okay, and you see the rotation operator parameters. Okay, so switch to textured and okay, so that's the thing about operators. Okay, we'll see more about operators shortly. Okay, so yeah, now let's learn more about the object properties. Go back to solid mode, select the cube, turn off the transformation handles. Okay, I want to initialize the x and y values, so I'll just right click, reset single default value, right click, reset single default value. Okay, and let's take a look at we'll come back to relations in the later classes. Okay, let's go to display. Okay, you can display the name of the object by this, and every object has a coordinate system. So in the last class we talked about Blender's coordinate system. Okay, so X, Y and Z. Okay, now by default every object that you add, okay, will be added relative to the world coordinate system. So if I enable axis and view set, you'll notice that the object's X axis is aligned with the world X axis, and the Y axis with the world Y axis, and Z with the world Z axis. Okay, so that's that. And let me press the Z key, okay, Z for zebra, to go into the solid mode. And if you want to go into the texture mode, you press Alt Z. Okay, Alt Z again toggles. Okay, and Z toggles wireframe on solid. Okay, yeah. Now let's click on wire. So if I click wire, I can see the wireframe overlay over the solid display. Okay, so if I select the lamp object, the wireframe is still displayed. Okay, so this is a nice option. I can do the same for the ground plane. Turn on wire and possibly the axis of the ground plane. Okay, so that's the world axis of the ground plane, align, I mean the object axis of the ground plane aligned with the world axis. Okay, so maybe let's turn the axis for ground plane off. Okay, alright. There are a few more options. Okay, we'll again neglect them for now. Okay, so that's about the object properties. Okay, now let's learn about the transformation hotkeys. Okay, so far we learned about the translation, which is G. Okay, select the object and press the G key and move the mouse. Okay, it's a free movement. To place the object, left click. Okay, undo by Ctrl Z. And if you want to cancel the operation anytime, either press the escape key, okay, or press the right mouse button. Okay, all right. So now let's talk about object properties. Okay, you see that when you select the object, you see this dotted thingy here. So that's the center of the object. Okay, that's the center of the object. So if I rotate the object, now the hotkey for rotating the object is R. Okay, so you'll notice that the rotation is happening around the center of the object. Okay, now let me press escape to cancel. Okay, now how do you move the center of the cube, okay, to the base of the cube, right? So how do we go about doing that? So there are different ways, but the best way of doing that is to use the 3D cursor. Okay, in Blender there is this concept of a 3D cursor. See this crosshair over here? So this is an object in 3D space. So you'll see that as I rotate the 3D view around by clicking the middle mouse button, the 3D cursor, okay, you can see its location. To find the coordinates of the 3D cursor, access the properties panel. Okay, let's collapse these and go to view panel. So you see that the X location of the 3D cursor is this, Y and Z. So let's initialize these values. Alright, so reset all. So the 3D cursor by default is at the origin of the world, right? So there you go. So basically I can use this 3D cursor to move the origin of the object. Okay, so let's see how to do that. So select the object, and in the tool shelf of the 3D view, you'll see this origin button. So click on the button, and you have three options. Okay, these are the set origin options. So I want the origin of my selected object to be at the 3D cursor location. Boom, see that? So this has moved. Let me undo it. It has moved from here. To redo, it's Control Shift Z. Okay, so that's how I can change the origin of the object. Okay, if I want the origin of my object to be at this corner, okay, so let me go to the front view. Okay, view and front. Okay, I'm in the front view but in the perspective okay, transformation. So let's switch to orthographic. Okay, I can place the mouse cursor over here. Okay, in the front view, go back to the right view and place the mouse cursor somewhere over here. Okay, back to front view again. Okay, that's okay. And to go back to the perspective view, just middle mouse click and drag. Okay, so now you are in the orthographic view. Okay, so let's switch to perspective. There you go. Okay, now my 3D cursor is here, my object origin is here. I want my origin to be over here, so I say origin and origin to 3D cursor. Okay, so now if I rotate this object, okay, R key, so the transformations happen around that point. Okay, so yeah, again there is more to this. We'll learn more about this in the later sections. Okay, so let me move the origin of my cube back to the world origin. Okay, the hotkey for moving the 3D cursor to the world origin is Shift C. Okay, if I press Shift C, the 3D cursor goes to the world origin. So I can now say origin to 3D cursor. Okay, as an assignment, you should play around with these two options and see what happens. Okay, all right. Okay, and view selected, space bar. Okay, I'm selected. Okay, now let's talk about the advanced hotkeys for translations and rotations and scaling. Okay, let me switch to the textured mode. Okay, so to move the object along a particular axis, okay, you can constrain it along that axis by pressing the corresponding letter. So if I want to constrain the movement, okay, so press the G key after selecting the object, and to constrain along the x-axis, press X. Okay, and move the mouse. So you'll notice the object moving along the x-axis. Okay, and press Y to move it along the y-axis, and press Z to move it along the z-axis. Okay, and as from the previous lesson, you can control how finely the movement is by pressing the control button. Okay, the control key. So if you press the control key, the object moves in steps of 1 unit, and if you press the shift key, the object moves in steps of 0.01. Okay, there you go. Okay, so press the G button, G key, and then X, Y, and Z. Okay, now if I want to, let me undo this. Okay, if I want to move the cube in the X and Y plane, which is this plane that is between the x-axis and the y-axis, press the G key. Okay, and press Shift Z. Okay, so now you'll notice the object is moving in the X and Y plane. Okay, this is more noticeable in the solid mode. Okay, G, Shift Z. So okay, I can place it over here. Let's go to wireframe mode and G, Shift Z. There you go. Okay, so this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and the object is moving in the X and Y plane. Okay, similarly, to constrain the movement in the Y and Z plane, I press G key and press Shift X. Now the object moves in the X and the Y and Z plane. Okay, Similarly, to constrain the movement in the x and z plane, G and shift Y. Now the object moves in the x and z plane. Okay. Now there is one more option. Okay. Before that, let's rotate this object. Okay. So, and also turn on the axis display. Okay. So you'll notice that the object's x-axis is aligned with the world x-axis. Similarly, y and z axis are aligned. Now let's rotate this object. Okay, let's rotate the object around the z-axis. So as I move it, you'll see that the object's coordinate system has rotated. Okay, now the object's x-axis is no more aligned with the world x-axis. Okay, you can also move the object, okay, along its local x-axis. To do that, press the G key, okay, then press the X key. Okay, first time when you press the X key, it moves in along the world x-axis, and the second time you press X, it moves along the world the object x-axis. Okay, similarly G, Y and Y, okay, along the object's local y axis. Similarly G, Z, Z. Okay, let me press the R key and rotate it. Okay, and now none of the objects axis are aligned with the world axis, so now you can see G, Z, Z. Okay, and G, okay, shift Z moves in the world x and y plane. Pressing shift Z again will now move the object in the uh, object's x and y plane. Okay, so it's pretty neat. Okay, so you need to practice this for it to make sense. Okay, but I'm just showing you the available options. Okay, so let's initialize all the transformations. I want to initialize the rotations, so right click, reset all, and I want to initialize the x and y. Okay, and let's initialize this as well. There you go, it's back on the ground plane again. Okay, so similarly you can use scale. Okay, let's press S. Okay, X. Okay, scale along the X. S, Y. Okay, scale along the Y, and Z, scale along the Z. Okay, and rotate. Okay, I want to rotate around the X axis, so press X. Rotate around the Y axis and rotate around the Z axis. Okay, now let's scale it in the X and Y plane, so press S, then shift Z. So now the object is scaled in the X and Y plane. Okay, to scale it in the X and Z plane, press S and then shift Y. So now it's being scaled in the X and Z plane. Okay, similarly rotations also work, so we can practice that. So this is rotation in the camera space. Okay, and if I press R again, now the object moves in a trackball mode. Okay, that's R and R. Okay, to rotate in the local x-axis, press X, X. Okay, that's the local x-axis. Okay, so rotate and X, this is the global x-axis, and pressing X again, it's the local x-axis. Okay, similarly R, Y, this is the global y-axis, and Y again in the local y-axis. Similarly rotate Z, global z-axis. You'll also notice that the 3D view header changes when you're transforming using the hotkeys or using the handles. So now it says rotation of -216.66 along the global z-axis. Okay, so that's about that. You can also initialize translations, rotations, and scale by pressing Alt G for initializing the location, Alt S for initializing the scale, and Alt R for initializing the rotations. Okay, there you go. Alright, so that's about transformations of the objects. Okay, now let's talk about duplicating objects. Okay, so let me go back to detection mode. Okay, so I have this object, right? The name of the object is cube1. Okay, cube1. Now this cube1 object, okay, has a geometry, right? So if you go to the 3D header, 3D view header, you'll notice that the 3D view header has some options. The 3D view can be in different modes: object mode, and the second mode is called the edit mode. Okay, if you go to the edit mode, you will see the components of the objects mesh. Okay, so you'll notice that you have vertices. Okay, right click. Okay, you have the vertices. Let's switch to solid mode. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and press the Z key to go into wireframe, and you'll see the 8 vertices of the objects. And you can choose the component select mode by clicking these icons. So edge select mode, and you have the edges. Okay, and the face select mode, and you have the faces. Okay, apart from this, the 3D view properties panel changes depending upon the mode that you're in. Okay, now you'll notice that in the edit mode you have this mesh display panel. If I go back to the object mode, the mesh display panel disappears. Okay, so let's go back to the edit mode, go to mesh display, and let's toggle the normals. Okay, face normals. Okay, the face normals are very small, so let's change the size. Okay, so Z key to go into shaded mode, and there you go, the normals of the faces and the vertex normals. Okay, alright, and you can also toggle on the area of the face. Okay, so area of the face is 2 times 2 4, or you can toggle the edge lengths. Okay, the length of the edge is 2 units. Okay, and edge angles, so if I select 2 edges, so for multiple selections it's select something, then hold down shift, and then right click to select the other. So the angle between 2 edges is 90. Okay, now let's go into the vertex select mode. Okay, and select the vertex, and let's translate these vertices. Okay, there you go. Okay, so that's how you translate vertices. Again, we'll learn more about mesh editing in the next class and beyond. Okay, let me undo this for now. Control Z to undo. Okay, and tab key, by pressing the tab key you will get back into the object mode. So tab key is a toggle between object and edit modes. Okay, so yeah, so the mesh properties are over here under object data. Okay, basically what this says is the name of the object is cube1, or let's change it to something else. Okay, actor cube. Okay, actor cube 1 dot 1. Okay, the name of the object is actor cube 1, and if you go to the object data, okay, the actor cube 1 object, okay, points to the actual geometry, okay, mesh called cube. Okay, so that's the thing. Now let's duplicate the object, and then you'll notice okay, some more options that come around here. Okay, depending upon how you duplicate the object. Okay, so let's go to object and press, okay, duplicate. Okay, shift D. Okay, once I press shift D, you are placed in the translation mode. Okay, so let me press the X key to constrain on the x-axis, and left click. Okay, so now I have a new object added called actorcube.000. Let me change it to actorcube.2. Okay, now the actorcube.2, okay, has its own copy of the mesh. Okay, and the name of the mesh is cube.001. Okay, the copy of the mesh for actorcube1 is cube, and the name of the mesh for actorcube2 object is cube.001. So we have now two copies of this object. Okay, two independent copies of this object. Okay, so I can go to the edit mode of this object and move it. Okay, and so these settings do not carry forward to this object. Okay, so there is another way of duplicating, okay, which is called linked duplicate. So let me select this actorcube1 and object, and duplicate linked. Okay, the hotkeys are also shown here already, and constrain in the y-axis and place it here. Now notice what happens. Okay, let's first change the name of this to 3. Okay, now actorcube3 has been duplicated by linking to actorcube1, right? So now see, this mesh data called cube is being shared by two objects. So that's what it says. Okay, there are two objects that are using this particular mesh, and for this object, okay, there's only one guy using that particular mesh data. Okay, so I can just select this and link duplicate Y, and now this mesh cube.001 is again used by two objects. Okay, now let's edit this cube, edit mode, and move. So you'll notice that because this and this are linked, okay, the mesh data changes accordingly. Okay, similarly for this, okay, tab to go into edit mode, and let me choose scale and scale it. Okay, there you go. So that's object duplication, okay, by copying and linking. And you also know about the concept of users. Okay, so let's just frame the camera. Okay, view and camera. Okay, now let's move the camera a little bit, okay, so that we can see all of them. So let's go to, let's toggle quad view and link the right, front, and top views, and press the T key to hide the tool shelf and the N key to hide the property panel. Okay, now in the top view, select the camera, okay, and just move it. Okay, I'll just move it by pressing the G key and moving it back. So you'll notice that the 3D the camera perspective is being updated. So let me choose this view, and in the front view, move it up, okay, and move it a little back. All right. Okay, with the camera selected, let's take a look at some of its properties. So this is the camera object. Okay, I can say camera dot one, and the camera object has its own data, which is over here. Okay, I can choose the focal length, okay, and okay, and title save, okay, name of the camera, and those things. Okay, so this should be good for now. Okay, let's first save this file, save as, and let me call it session 2 version 1. Okay, and enter, and press render. Okay, there you go. Right, press escape. Before that, switch to slot number 2, press escape, All right, now let's choose another camera angle, okay, and render one more image. Okay, so to do that, in the with the mouse in the camera perspective, press the space key and type toggle quad. Okay, and you get the toggle quad operator, and so on the hotkey is Control Alt Q. Okay, so you can use the hotkey Control Alt Q toggles, and if I want to see the top ortho with the mouse in the top ortho, Control Alt Q. Okay, Control Alt Q. Okay, it's a very handy hotkey. Okay, now let's move the camera. Okay, maybe over here. So move it and then rotate it. So press the R key, okay, and rotate the camera so you see the objects in view. Okay, now let's render again. There you go. Okay, okay, in the next session we'll learn more about camera manipulation. Okay, so that's the end of session 2. Okay, see you in session 3. Thank you. And a Control S is for invoking the save option. Okay.